auto-reflexão também. Olhem em inglês para famílias Balibo 5 minha, nomos para comunidade internacional e para Maluxira toca até versão teto, versão português, a mitad e a plataforma portal governo mundial onde é interessado na versão da comunidade. So I must say now good afternoon and welcome to all our very special guests. I know there are so many and I just endorse the greetings that my previous speakers have already conveyed. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear friends from Australia and also from Timor-Leste. We gather here, it's October 2025, to mark the 50th years since the tragedies of Balibo and also in Dili, as mentioned before, that claimed the lives of courageous journalists, the Balibo 5 and Rosary East. 50 years ago, exactly, 5 young journalists in Balibo and 1 in Dili stood between silence and the rest of the world. They chose truth and they paid with their lives. Today, we remember them not as distant figures, but as echoes of our own responsibility to speak, to demand, to act. The National Press Day today shows the motto of press freedom for truth and justice. On this 50th anniversary, their stories demand remembrance not only for the sacrifice those journalists made in pursuit of truth about crimes done by powerful nations to weaker ones, and also for the critical lessons their faiths teach about the responsibilities of governments, the perils of secrecy, and the courage of those who report from world's most dangerous frontiers. Their deaths are not merely distant footnotes of history. They remain wounds in our conscience, reminders of the human cost of conflict, the fragility of truth in war, and the heavy burden of moral responsibility across borders. In this commemoration, I wish to speak both to memory and to questions. Why they were reporting in Balibo? What was the response to the death? And what meanings do these events have for Australians and as well to us Timorese? As we reflect on this half a century passage. On 16 October 1975, the 5 journalists from Australian TV came to this place, to Balibo, to investigate reports of invasions from Indonesian forces. The group was Greg Shackleton, Australian Channel 7 reporter, Tony Stewart, Australian Channel 7 sound recordist, Brian Peters, British Channel 9 cameraman, Malcolm Rennie, British Channel 9 reporter, Gary Cunningham, New Zealand Channel 7 cameraman. Here at Balibo, from the nearby old fort. They had a perfect view of the coast towards the Indonesian border. Soon after, they encountered Fretilin patrols and had contact with senior Timorese leader, now President Dr. Jose Ramos Horta. They were then able to film Indonesian naval ships offshore. The journalists stayed here, we mentioned many times before. That time it was a deserted house, which they painted with the Australian flag in the hope that their journalistic status might afford them protection. They dubbed the house the Australian Embassy, in recognition of the protection they hoped for to have but did not realistically receive. In the early morning of 16 October 75, Indonesian forces launched an attack on Balibo as part of a covert operation codenamed Operasi Flamboyant to seize the key border towns of Maliana, Sabe, and also Balibo. That was their first stage of the full-scale invasion of Timor-Leste. That morning, within minutes of filming advancing Special Forces soldiers, the 5 journalists were dead. They had been murdered in cold blood by Indonesian forces, intent on silencing them to suppress evidence of Indonesian military involvement in East Timor. For a moment, the Indonesian invasion forces drew back and hesitated, awaiting the world's official reactions to the murders. But there was none. Weeks later, Indonesian forces launched massive invasion that opened a brutal 25-year occupation, during which as many as 200,000 Timorese perished through violence, through famine, and forced displacement. It was nothing less than a humanitarian catastrophe. The official public Indonesian position, long held and repeated by subsequent Australian governments, was that the journalists died as incidental casualties of crossfire during the fighting. However, over subsequent years and decades, a very different account emerged, brought forward through testimonial evidence, inquiries, and most importantly, investigative journalism. As my good friend Tim Brax mentioned before, in 2007 in New South Wales, the Deputy State Coroner, Dorel Pinch, conducted an inquest into the death of Brian Peters after pressure from the families, and in doing so, implicitly extended findings to all 5 journalists. Her findings were stark. She found that the Balibo 5 died at Balibo on 16 October 75 from wounds sustained when they were shot and stabbed deliberately and not in the heat of the battle by members of the Indonesian Special Forces. The coroner concluded that the journalists were not incidental casualties. They had been captured as non-combatants and then deliberately executed despite contesting their status. She further found compelling circumstantial evidence that the orders originated from higher levels, possibly up to Major General Benny Mordani, the then commander of the Special Forces. The coroner's report recommended that prosecutions under Australia's war crimes provisions be considered. However, that never happened. As Indonesian forces moved in towards Dili, Australian aid workers and medical staff joined with other foreign correspondents in Timor and withdrew to Australia. Roger East chose to stay, planning to escape with Fretilin into the mountains and transmit reports back to Australia by radio. His final broadcast for ABC's foreign correspondence report on 7 December 75 described invading Indonesian troops in the capital Dili. The next day, East was trapped in Dili and soon captured by Indonesian soldiers. After being taken prisoner, he was executed by one shot to the head at the wharf of Dili Harbor, along with mass execution of Timorese prisoners and civilians. He was executed as a continuation of the Indonesian campaign to silence independent news. In both the Balibo 5 and Roserie's death, as in the case of the Indonesian invasion of East Timor, allegations of collusion, suppression of truth, and diplomatic cover-up loom large. In short, decades of silence, classified files, and diplomatic deference have allowed much of the truth to remain buried in justice, if not in memory. As we mark 50 years since those deaths, what should such remembrance offer to the Australians and to us, the Timorese? For the Australians, there is honoring journalistic courage. The Balibo 5 and Roger East embodied the essential principle: the journalist risks their lives to report truths others would suppress. Their sacrifice demands we honor press freedom and protection from truth-seeking work, as our media personnel today alert us is much needed to be done. Foreign policy lessons. The Balibo and Roserie's death, as well as of the Timorese, provide a necessary caution against uncritical alignment with powerful nations. They show the moral cost of political compromise, and they also press us to center human rights, not only strategic interests in regional policy and alliance. For us, the Timorese, there is respect for suffering. Timorese communities, our communities, have endured profound loss over decades. Remembering the Balibo 5 and Roger East affirms their story is part of our nation's struggle for dignity and for truth. International solidarity. The presence of Australians and many other friends here acknowledges that Timor's cause has had many supporters beyond our borders. It strengthens years-long bonds of trust and moral partnership. 50 years is a long time. Yet remembrance matters precisely because justice is never automatic. Commemoration too is not passive. It is an active practice of memory, demanding transparency. For investigative journalism, it is about pushing for declassification, renewing investigations, supporting journalism training, and strengthening international norms for protection for journalists. Ceremonies are frequently held to celebrate, like today, not only the lives of Shackleton, Cunningham, Stewart, Rennie, Peters, and East, but also to recommit to the principles of free speech and international accountability. In Australia, memorials such as the War Correspondence Memorial in Canberra and in Timor, here the Balibo House, stand as precincts of memory. But memory alone is not enough. Although each generation must assert that truth matters, that the costs borne by those who spoke must not be in vain. 50 years is a long distance, and new generations in Australia and Timor-Leste may ask us, why dwell so long on events in 75? The answer is simple. It is because memory bridges time, and moral duty never expires. The legacy of the Balibo is inseparable from the history of Timor-Leste. Its struggle for independence, the regional politics that shape its fate, and the international pursuit for truth amidst violence and denial. Their sacrifice endures every act of remembrance, every step towards reconciliation, and every story that honors those who confront injustice. And they charge us, this generation and the next, to keep open the space for truth, for justice, and for remembrance. As Australians and as Timorese, neighbors linked by geography, history, and humanity, our responsibility is bound together. May this 50th anniversary not be a mere ceremony. We hope that this ceremony will keep us strength, give us strength, make us stronger to continue to pursue truth and justice. Thank you.
Thank you to Minister Agio Pereira. What an outstanding speech. It deserves another round of applause. It was outstanding. Thank you, Minister. Very, very good. Very good. I wonder if I could invite up onto the podium Evan Shackleton and the Balibo Martyrs for an exchange of gifts, if I could please.
Bien, con respeto a mi convida familia Balibo Martyrs. A mi convida familia Balibo Martyrs na em todo. Senhor Fernando Carvalho, Senhora Apolonia, Senhora Umbelina. Dia idanemaka itatu troca presente entre família Balibo Martires, nevema mate iha, ema oho iha 99, ho família Balibo 5, hosi Austrália, Mr. Evan Secleton se representa. Maida Basaliman.
Pai. Bem. Dia pai ni muda basuri. Alai ne. Dia pai ni muda bani.
Given that Evan is carrying so many ties, I wonder if Jules, Jack and Kate Shackleton could come up and help him carry some of these as well, please. We'll give him some of these.
Hello.
Evan Shackleton, I wonder on behalf of the Balibo 5 family if you might say a few words.
I'm very honoured to represent the families of the Balibo 5 today, but I cannot speak for them or on their behalf. We're all different and we all have our own voices. I'm only able to tell you how I feel. The 16th of October has always been a very hard day for me. I never know how I'm going to feel when I wake up, and I never really know what I'm going to do. Some days I listen to the music that my dad and I used to listen to, and I've still got some of his vinyl records to listen to. Some days I watch the movies that he took me to at the cinema, and sadly some days I just drink and drink until I fall asleep. I also want to remember the families of the Balibo martyrs and the people of Timor-Leste. Our shared pain is felt amongst all of us, and I understand that my story is dwarfed by the people of Timor-Leste's story. I wanted to say that I am so indebted to the people of Timor-Leste, and especially the people of Balibo, who have gone to all this trouble to commemorate this occasion. I am completely overwhelmed. I can never repay you, but I will try. From now on the 16th of October, I'm going to think of this amazing day that you have created and the wonderful and amazing people who I have met. I hope my dad's remains are somewhere here in Balibo, because the people of Timor-Leste, and especially the people of Balibo, are the only people that I trust to keep his remains safe. You are the perfect custodians of my dad's remains, and I'm deeply indebted to you, very deeply, for having done it for so long. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan, and the family. Thank you very much for those beautiful words. Well, in wrapping up, thank you to everyone who's contributed to this memorial by speaking or organising, and thank you for your presence at this significant event. There will be lunch for invited guests at the Fort Hotel and refreshments in the cafe here. Please take time to look at the new displays in the Flag House, just here. There's also an exhibition by the local artist Toto in the Veterans Museum just in the fort. Also, the Veterans Museum display is there as well if you're yet to see it. So, obrigado, thank you very much.
Obrigado ba Mahotu nebe contribuiona ba memorial idane. Di hosi qualia ka organiza no agradece ba Mahotu minha presença e evento significado idane. Sei almoço ba baina kasira nebe hetang convite ia Fort Hotel no café ia cafetaria neba antes ita ba sunuliling. Depois idane ita sei hare hamutu exhibição phone ia uma bandeira ka uma Balibo 5 CLC no íamos exposição ida hosi artista local Toto ia Museu Veteranos Siranian ia Fort Hotel exposição Museu Veteranian se ita bot sedau kare karik ita bel hakat hamutu ba. Dia, ami convida Sua Excelência no itabot sira, bainaka no convidado sira hotu, itaba cafetaria, fatin sore neba, ita hetaneti aihan rumah, depois ita continua ba sunalili ya uma sina nebe maka sira mate ba. Ba tempo no fatin ami entrega. Dari etang convida ita hotu, atu ba ya cafetaria ita nya kotuk. Obrigado.
As long as someone just tells us when we need to.
Very few. Thank you. Yeah, she was very fierce.
You want to try growing up?
Thanks.
And very proud. Yeah.
I'm going to go too. Yo. Benta ka. Hey. Joe. Joe. Esto entre manos. Joe.
Okay, you tell me when. I'll take my hat off. I don't want to get burned. It's hot.
Sekarang kita bayar tapi mahu kan?
Ay,